Welcome to my new office, aka the car. I'm not driving, but my oldest is today for the first time at his football training. So I brought him here, doing the meeting in between, and then pick him up afterwards again. So fully remote, yeah, doing it classic old school. Good, but this means that I need to work with a small screen again. Let's see how good I am at this. So that I can see you also at the same time. Ugh. This is, yeah. So I have an announcement. I made it already through the Slack channel today. We got this last week. I was in the US, so I was traveling a lot. So this took a little bit longer to get everyone pinged and merged. But I'm very happy to announce that we have added a new product category to the product intelligence team, which means that we have added as a responsibility the application instrumentation. Thanks a lot, Sam, for helping me to name this whole thing and going through the second iteration. What does this mean apart from adding a category? This means quite a shift for the product intelligence team on the long term, because this will basically mean that as we have in the analytics section now, one team which is product intelligence and one team which is the analytics team. Maybe we find also another name at some point for this to make it less confusing. But the target is that the product intelligence team will take over all the instrumentation part. So everything that you are really, really, really good at and have tons of know-how about, in the sense of tracking stuff and using tracking so far with Snowplow, understanding how applications work, etc., will be in the future your responsibility. So this means that the target is basically that product intelligence will be building inside the product the part that is creating all the tracking. This means the tracking SDK. This will especially, I think this was the first discussion that we started already in the Slack channel, was around event taxonomy, and then also real user performance, etc., etc. And the analytics team will then basically focus on running the collector and running then also all the visualization and data display stuff, etc. And the target is pretty clear. You have the biggest knowledge and know-how at all in GitLab, all the product intelligence team members. So I wanted to leverage that directly and be part of the whole product building part in reality. And hopefully over time, we will then also transform that your other two responsibilities get smaller and smaller, because we build more and more of that stuff into the product and can leverage it through that. Yeah, Sam, do you want to add something before we, as the representative of product, before we go over questions?
No, I think you did a really good job covering it there, Tim. I will say one of the things that makes me really excited about this change is that we're making this category an explicit responsibility for the group that it sits in. I think it's going to be very easy for people to see product instrumentation or product analytics and just assume a lot of the magic happens, but breaking things down to these standalone pieces like instrumentation is really going to help folks see all the different pieces of how things happen, what makes up the final solutions. And so I'm really excited to see this being broken out and go into the group.
Thanks a lot. Any questions, or all clear and super easy to understand? This was the first time I was adding a product category, so.
Since there's no news, I think I have a question, but I saw that Dennis has a comment, so I just stand myself in a queue and wait for my turn.
Well, if it's relevant to the responsibilities, we can go ahead and jump to that. I think just following the same theme. So feel free to voice your point there now.
Okay. So again, it's very exciting news, and thank you very much for reaching out to us and involving us in building new product. This is really great thing. I just wanted to ask for some more of clarification, or trying to expand on what was just said, because I'm referring to the long-term goals that are mentioned by Denise. especially the taxonomy or pseudonymization, that this is more of the part of the collection pipeline rather than the tracking itself. So we rather kept the tracking and the SDKs as a very thin layer, always, and oftentimes to move these parts to the collection pipeline, which doesn't mean that we don't really want to work on that, but rather just trying to get better understanding of what was expected, or maybe we could just like probably iterate over that and collaborate and jump whatever is needed, but wanted to voice out it right now.
Yeah, I think the main part is that we want to move as much as possible already onto the application layer, so that we have. I think it's really important that in the future we have very clear data that is coming from the collecting part slash the whole tracking SDK. So that's why I believe it's really important that we have a clear understanding what data will land in there. We will still at some point give customers the whole possibility, add whatever you want and on top, etc. But I think it's not the first step, and it would complicate a lot of things there. So that's why I think it's really important that we figure out from objective the whole event taxonomy that they are providing. If we should get this into the SDK, how we can build it in there, etc. And around your other comment that currently the product intelligence group doesn't have a front-end engineer. Yeah, this is something we definitely can change, and we have a couple of more hires that we can hire the product intelligence group. This will be also a moving progress. I wanted to have this shared and merged as soon as possible, so that it's clear for everyone. Yes, both of our teams here in analytics are working on the product, and get you all involved as soon as possible. If this means already like creating code, we will see, we will figure this out in the next milestone, or is this rather of like, okay, let's discuss, let's review what we have currently, map this to the new, would we be able to do this with the current SDK? So going really into details around the whole tracking SDK implementation right now, which is not an implementation, it's a couple of lines of just piping it through to another SDK. But that's where we will start building a thicker layer that encapsulates hopefully as much as possible to provide us with really clear data. And looking at product intelligence and a couple of the calls, I think that was also, or is still, one of the bigger problems, that you created some data at some point 24 months ago, 12 months ago, and 6 months ago, and now they should be all the same at the end, and that's where you do all the conversions. So I think that's something we want to struggle less exactly with the know-how that you and the others from the team have, that we are not building then tons of data conversion and merging and etc. So, but rather, I'm pretty sure we will not do it perfectly from the start, but I think having that know-how at hand, this is super vital.
Yeah, and with event taxonomy and pseudonymization, we definitely want to just leverage you as a subject matter experts, having gone through that already. But as I learned from your work in product intelligence with, and speaking to the group at large, the work there, and like how some of there's existing transformations because some of the event names were like misspelled or things like that, and they've been there for 1 to 2+ years and things like that. We want to just make sure that we do as much right as possible based off of your experience. But I think you were also curious about who's going to be doing what. Obviously, we want to leverage you, as Tim mentioned, as like the subject matter experts there.
That was my podcast that went off because the car shut down.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Trying to reboard the train of thought. You were curious about who's going to be working on what. So obviously, we want to leverage as much knowledge that you have as possible that product intelligence group has. But obviously, this is just a first step with instrumentation in terms of defining ownership there. We'll continue to iterate on that to figure out, where does event taxonomy, who's going to own event taxonomy, who's going to own pseudonymization. But until then, we obviously want to balance it against product intelligence existing priorities. There's obviously a bunch of work that you're already in flight with, migrating the versions app to a different cluster and things like that. So we want to balance that so that we're not saying, hey, we want to use your knowledge, but then also, can you do all of this even on top of your other existing priorities? So we'll have to balance it for sure. Hopefully that also gives a little more context in terms of how do we plan to collaborate on that.
Thank you both for clarification and for the further information.
Cool. Any other questions before we move to my wall of text? All right, cool. Then I just wanted to give a quick update, just to kind of reorient ourselves, and then kind of give also an update on a variety of different things, the moving parts within product analytics. So the main goal, of course, still remains on iteration 1 in terms of delivering an internal preview of what we're working on. The main goal, though, is to be able to get data from production applications. So our two candidates, our two likely candidates, I don't think that's the right word, where we will be implementing instrumentation will be the internal handbook, and then a very specifically scoped project, the GitLab project within GitLab org on gitlab.com. And so as far as updates there, the cluster is operational. I do have to relocate that. And so that will be good to go this week. I believe we should be able to we have the approvals for the internal handbook as well to start instrumenting on that. Sam, to your point further below, we had a review with the legal team last week. And so I will follow up with written notes on that, but basically we have the go ahead to implement tracking for direct users of the GitLab project within GitLab org. But we will have to work on a cookie consent model because that does not yet exist on the product side of the application. We do have an existing implementation using OneTrust in the marketing side of things, but I think we can do something a little bit quicker in terms of just like some simple banner opt-in or something like that until we can, figure out the full details of creating a new category within OneTrust and things like that. So basically, we're good to kind of build the technical proof of concept. We can then touch base again with legal, make sure that what we discuss is what they're seeing. And then we should be good to go to then start collecting data on gitlab.com, at least in a very focused manner.
On that approval for the internal handbook, did they give that to us in writing somewhere, or was that a verbal conversation?
Verbal, so we can follow up on that and get the written approval as well. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's encouraging they approved everything verbally, at least, though. No major showstoppers, it doesn't sound like.
Yeah, the main discussion points that like Justin and I helped provide clarification on were they I think it's a common question where they didn't understand like what product analytics is doing that's different from product intelligence and our analytics stack there versus Snowplow. And also they just wanted to understand why we wanted to use cookies or collect personally identifiable information, because of course we want to be able to be as close to the functionality that our users would be using. So I think once we clarified things, they were pretty much on board. There were no major objections with regards to why we were collecting that, though of course pseudonymization is something we want to work on and implement and offer as a feature as well. So at least we have the full approval to go as far as we need to, despite us maybe not using that fully within our own implementation of it or our own dogfooding of it.
Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll follow up with that in written form later today. I also had asked if there were any blockers. We had already talked to that point. And so longer term, I just included some links and also just want to clarify things like event taxonomy, pseudonymization are all very important, but I don't believe that they are required for iteration 1 or even 2. These are topics that we want to investigate over time, but we want to definitely try to get closer to just being able to build dashboards live and get that in front of users. So yeah, I just want to clarify that, but also include links that, like mentioned before, we want to leverage the experience of product intelligence team members. So if you have any thoughts there, we would definitely love to talk more about it. A couple of read-only FYIs, so I'd like to just pass it over to Nikolai if we're good to go.
I think we covered my points, so
okay.
The stage is all yours.
Okay, you got it. Then we can skip Sam's, and then Tim, you have the final point.
Yeah, I read it out. This is also mainly a FYI, but the Manage Optimize team is highly interested also in our future dashboard solution and what we started working on. So they want to have, and they will need quite soon, also need some custom dashboard solutions. So in the sense of that users will be able to build dashboards based on value stream analytics data, etc. Depending on the data source, we still need to see. Maybe they also are interested in using Cube. This is something still to be discovered, but for sure, the basis of just dashboarding, saving dashboards, editing, etc., is something that we most probably share work-wise with them, so that they will also have some engineers who will help on the whole effort, which is great because this means early on we already get 2 teams working on this topic, which should make this much faster. But this also means that we need to see that we, as soon as possible, basically unblock and map out all the work tasks so that we, in the next couple of milestones, we can clearly split the work, not be blocked on each other, etc., and create bottlenecks. Tomorrow I have simply a meeting to see what their target is and what the bandwidth, and then we can set up something in detail on what we will be working, etc., on, and simply let them know what our current planning is, where we are with the implementation, and yeah, and then we can discuss the same with them in detail on the features that we want to implement and break them out into smaller tasks.
Tim, can you add me to that meeting that you have with them?
Yes, I can add you. I'm not sure how early it is because I believe they are in Europe and
Haim is in Israel, so if
exactly.
him and his counterparts are both there, it might be early, but I'd like to attend if possible.
It's not tomorrow. It's someone else. I think it's even maybe next week. Then it's easier. Then we can still move it. I will find it and send you the invite.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Do we know if they have a lot of work in this space already that we'd be able to either build off of or adjust, or they're just getting started?
0. They have a little bit work where they did configuration in the YAML file for the overview on the data in statistics, but that's it. They have everything hard coded, nothing where people basically can edit and set up their own stuff. But that's what I want to create really, is that we have one system. I clearly can see this, that we might even have some more teams in the future also work either on the dashboarding functionality or provide then view components, or basically components that will be sitting in the dashboard. That's something I think is super important, that we align this as early as possible.
Agreed.
They're also looking at leveraging Cube as well, potentially, right? So
yeah. And or they are also looking into getting the database replicated maybe in ClickHouse, which would already allow us then for a service ping at a later version have also a lot of data that we need for service ping stuff, then basically based on counts, etc., have that in ClickHouse and rather query that than the normal Postgres database. So this is definitely a little bit below on the roadmap for them, because this will be a huge lift, but it seems more and more that this is something highly needed, that they can actually create analytics and not work a couple of milestones on the queries so that they perform actually on a larger scale. So I think this is more and more becoming a topic, and then Cube definitely is also a topic.
In terms of reusing, I just wanted to or cross-reference suggestion I made on one of the issues, that at least from the early stages, it seems that there are at least some overlaps with the work that was done by former group APM team, monitor APM team, which was also creating the dashboards that were defined as a code. There were probably different solutions because it was Cube.js, but on the like goals or ideas, they're the same, just a different types of configuration. But storing and manipulating dashboards via code or linking, cross-linking in the issues, all of this work has been done, and the code probably still in the code base. So there may be opportunity to reuse and repurpose it for the product analytics goals, which may save us the effort, especially on the initial iterations.
I just quickly linked, not exactly to the discussion, but I believe this is where your comments about monitors APM's work is, so we can all follow up there.
I will have a look. That looks good. Cool. Thanks a lot for highlighting that. Good. Anything else? Anyone?
Was today the everyone wear your GitLab shirt day. It looks like four of the 7 of us are matching.
If you give me 30 seconds, I literally know where this shirt is and I can go grab it. But I also have a GitLab hat behind me somewhere. So
I must
They're
say,
very comfortable.
yeah,
They are quite
they're
soft.
really nice. Yeah.
Whoever they picked, I liked the manufacturer for sure.
Yeah, and when I had this also on when I picked my oldest up from kindergarten, and he was also wearing his GitLab shirt. So then I feel a little bit overdressed. So,
Nice.
cool. Thanks
good
a lot.
seeing everyone.
All right, thanks, folks. Bye.
Take care.
Take care.